Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for this community meeting for the Palisades Fire on Monday, January 13th at 6:30. Give a brief overview of the fire situation. Fire is 23,713 acres. We're at 14% containment, and we have 5,200 personnel assigned to this fire. The way this meeting is going to go is we're going to have presentations discussing the current fire situation and operations, and then we're going to move into a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We're writing down and combining as much as possible. We're passing it to the appropriate person to be answered, and hopefully we'll be able to get to a lot of them. We can't reach all the questions, so if your question isn't answered, we will compile those and answer those either tomorrow on social media or in tomorrow night's virtual community meeting. We'll go ahead and kick it off with our Palisades Fire operations.
Good evening. I'm Christian Litz. This is my partner, Landon Hack. We are operations for the Palisades Fire. So I'll talk about the right half of the fire. So starting at Topanga Canyon in the area of Topanga Oaks and Sylvia Parks. That edge has minimal heat source, but there's still heat interior. So resources are going along the edges. They're securing that edge, and they're going deeper and deeper and looking for those isolated heat sources that we use infrared from the airplane to pinpoint for us so ground crews can get in there. All along the edge, they're still continuing to work the edge all around the top half of the fire, coming from Dirt Mulholland down into Mulholland or Mandeville Canyon. Everything's still the same. They're securing those edges, get deeper and deeper in, looking for those isolated heat sources that have been identified. There's been minimal activity, and also that we're using a little bit of helicopters out there, and they're helping us get those heat sources cooler so the ground source is getting in there, working it with hand tools. Coming down Mandeville Canyon into the West Ridge area where the fire has come close to those structures, we have resources all around those structures, mitigating any heat sources behind them so that we don't have any adverse effects to those structures. Coming around to Riviera where we border Santa Monica and in the Pacific Palisades, Temescal Canyon, and back over to Topanga Canyon. We have all those structures in there that there is heat and damage in there, so resources are combing that area, getting in deep, concentrating on the standing structures, make sure that there's no heat around them, that they're safe, and that there's not going to have any effect with the fires if the wind is blowing, and we're continuing to mitigate all that we can to keep the public safe.
All right, good evening. We're going to continue across the Pacific Coast Highway here, coming across to Topanga Beach, Los Flores, and that oceanfront country there, up into the drainages and the canyons and the roads that go up canyon from the highway. They're still working on cooling off some of the structures that were lost and getting that stuff mopped up really good, making sure that there's no way for anything to spread when the heavier winds come in into any other structures. And some of that work includes utilizing heavy equipment, excavators and stuff, to move some stuff around so that they can get that heat taken out of that. Coming around up to where the fire met the Franklin fire, this is all still doing pretty good. It's holding. We don't have very many concerns in that portion, and that's why that line is black. Coming into Montanito, still reinforcing lines there, getting some of the hand line cut through the rocks, and then the crews are working interior to put out any heat that's next to the line to secure that edge so that in the event of the strong winds that are forecasted to come, nothing can come out of there. Coming across the top of the ridge all the way over into Fernwood, the same thing is going on with the reinforcement of the line, going after the infrared heat signatures that are interior to get as much depth as we can from the fire's edge so that none of those embers can get out into what we call the green, the unburned material, and start this fire back up or spread anymore. Thank you.
Next up, our incident meteorologist.
All right, good evening, everybody. Rich Thompson, incident meteorologist. Weather-wise, we're still under a red flag warning. The red flag warning is still in effect until 6 o'clock Wednesday evening. So we're going to still expect moderate to locally strong Santa Ana winds tonight through Wednesday evening. The strongest winds will likely be tomorrow morning, generally gusts anywhere from 35 to 55 miles per hour. Then a little bit weaker winds during the rest of the day, tomorrow and into Wednesday, but still pretty gusty out there. And along with those winds, you're going to have very low humidities, down in the teens, maybe even single digits by Wednesday, so very, very windy out there, very dry, and of course you still have your fuels out there that are still critically dry because of no rainfall since last April. So that's why the critical conditions are there, and the red flag warning will remain in effect. Now, by Wednesday evening, those red flag conditions should taper off, and Thursday is kind of transition day. Then Friday and Saturday, we get back to kind of that onshore sea breeze sort of pattern, get cooler temperatures, higher humidities, and so forth. So we'll get a couple of days respite from the Santa Ana winds.
Next up, Los Angeles County Emergency Operations Center.
Good evening. My name is Katie Jang. I'm here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Emergency Operations Center and Coordinated Joint Information Center. As we begin down the long road of recovery, we wanted to share some of the initial steps that can be taken to start the process. First, be sure to visit recovery.lacounty.gov for an up-to-date list of resources and information. If you have not already, start a claim with your insurance provider as soon as possible to get that process started. Many steps within the FEMA application process will require up-to-date insurance progress. Start the FEMA claim process as soon as you can, and be sure to closely review all information you receive. Information on how to apply is available on recovery.lacounty.gov. Beginning tomorrow, local assistance centers will be available for anyone impacted by these fires. These centers offer many critical resources in one location. Locations and times are available on the recovery webpage. Finally, many trusted and verified community and nonprofit organizations are available to assist you in this journey. More information will be available in the coming days. Please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call 211 for more. Thank you.
Next up, Los Angeles Fire Department.
Good evening, everybody. Today in the city side, let's stay with the city side right now, of Los Angeles, the Palisades area and surrounding areas, we worked really hard to extinguish the fire and then prepare for this upcoming windstorm, which kind of goes hand in hand. And then lastly, we prepared for potential repopulation. Now, understanding with the repopulation coming up in some time, there's some things that we have to do, and let me explain what those might be. We have to ensure the safety of the general public, ensure the safety of you. That means removing major hazards, down trees, wires, gas lines, and all those things that could cause damage. Two, we're creating a coordinated effort, grid systems by streets, blocks, and that takes a little bit of time to do that. And simultaneously, the last thing is we're figuring out what the other needs are for the public. DAFN needs, function, disability needs, and then going in there and seeing what kind of hazmat problems there are and figuring out how we're going to mitigate that prior to allowing people to go in. So all those things are kind of working simultaneously. We're out there working to prepare for this next storm. But believe me, it's our top priority to get you back in there to see your homes. So as I progress in these nightly meetings, I will give you more updated information as it relates to what I'm talking about.
Next up, LAPD.
Good evening, everyone. As Chief Everett just briefed, the evacuation orders have remained in place, and we're working very closely with our fire and utilities partners to determine when we can safely reopen the evacuation area. So the mandatory evacuation orders remain in place. We have also continued to suspend our medication escorts until further notice. However, we do have some news to report to you. If you are looking for an animal that was left behind, you may call and coordinate with the LA Department of Regulation, and I will put out a number. So prepare to copy. Community members who have a missing pet that they left behind may call to do a check at 888-452-7381. LAPD officers are performing increased patrols in the area. Over the last 24 hours, we've deployed over 600 officers over the last 24 hours. We have been supplemented by officers from LAX Airport Police, as well as California Army Reserve National Guardsmen. We've deployed over 200 California Army National Guardsmen to supplement our traffic control points and appreciate their assistance. At this time, we also stood up a 24/7 manned missing persons report hotline. So far, we have received over 28 reported missing persons. 17 of those 28 persons who reported missing have been found and are safe. If you have a missing person to report, you may call our 24/7 hour hotline at 213-996-1800. That concludes my brief.
Next up, Los Angeles County Sheriffs.
Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Mike Marion from IMT 2B, the overnight shift here at Zuma Beach Command Post. I'll be briefing on our half of the fire with our partners, LAPD. Thank you for your brief. My numbers are for the A side, so he did a 24-hour, so you could pretty much double my numbers because I did the prior 12 hours, but he gave the 24 hours. For A shift, we had 129 sheriffs. That includes the command post, staging, and all the forward deployed units on missions locking down the area. CHP has an additional 12 officers, and we're also augmented by 9 National Guard soldiers and their vehicles. Sheriff is manning 10 closure locations. CHP has an additional 2 closure locations, and the National Guard is on 4 posts. We have no changes in our lockdown hard closures. It's the same as yesterday. We have increased our looting patrols. Looting suppression and flock safety has also donated some ALPR cameras. We've augmented our cameras to one of our contract city areas. And there's a lot of other augments going on. Search and rescue. We are the sheriff is standing up squads to aid search and rescue in a phased approach, as briefed by LA City Fire. And again, the safety is the primary concern on that. Other than that, that's all we have for LA County Sheriff. Pending questions.
Next up, Los Angeles County Fire.
Good evening, Brian Martin, Los Angeles County Fire Department Deputy IC. Thank you to Operations for the overview of the incident. Today is a critical day as we face the 3 days of the wind, and we finalize the fire, and we move into that recovery process. We thank you for your cooperation and your patience. We know this community is resilient. We have been through incidents many times, and we really want to thank you for your cooperation and trust. As to echo what Chief Everett has stated, we have begun those conversations of what it takes to get you back into your homes. However, we just keep asking you to remain patient. This is going to take time. We need to do this right, and we need to make sure that everyone is safe to get back into their homes. There's many things out there that we need to mitigate: the roads, power lines, emergency traffic needs to be able to move in and out, as well as the public. So there's a lot of things that we need to finalize before we do that, and we continue to just ask for your patience and trust, and we really appreciate your collaboration and support. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the formal presentation portion. Now we'll move into the question and answer portion. So we've been writing down questions in-house, passing it to the most appropriate person to answer it. And again, we're going to do our best to answer as many as possible. If we don't get to your question, though, please know that we're going to work hard to get you that answer either through social media or through tomorrow night's meeting.
All right, good evening again. My name is Landon Hack. I'm one of the operations section chiefs with the incident, and I work for CAL FIRE. First question I got here is, what is mopping up? So mopping up is a process of cooling off hot material throughout the fire perimeter inside where it has burned. That can be anything from ash left from brush, root systems, basically any material that burned that is still remains hot along the fire's edge and then further interior. When it comes to structures, that's debris left, metal comes down, covers the ground, holds heat underneath it. So mopping up is the process of turning that material around, applying water, grubbing it out with tools, and cooling it off to make sure that no embers can come out of that and cross the line and ignite further fire, be it a structure or more vegetation. What is containment? So containment for us, we put on here, we utilize the black line to represent that on the map. And that is area that we have very, very, very high confidence that all the mop-up has been done and there is extremely to no potential for the fire to come out of that area again. And then it's usually represented in a percentage when it's talked about. Another one is what is handline construction. So handline construction is, we use hand crews for that, for the most part. Engine companies also do handline construction when need be, but they're the ones that are carrying the hose and the water, so that's typically the work that they do. But handline construction is a process utilizing hand tools. Some tools cut, some tools grub, and some tools basically rake in conjunction with chainsaws that cut the brush and materials of trees and that kind of stuff. And it's a process of taking the unburned material down to bare dirt on the fire's edge so that the fire has no material to burn anymore. So it stops the fire. Fire cannot progress without the material to burn. Next one is anyone sifting through our rubble? Sifting in a sense of looking for belongings or material, no. What we do is that process that I just explained in and around structures to remove the heat. So as we get further down the road in this, you will probably hear us refer to making things safe, make safe. A part of that process is making sure that when people can come back in and they're in and around structures to get through that material and look for things that there is no heat in there, so nobody steps in to a hot ash pit, nobody gets burned, and also obviously the fire doesn't come up out of there. The next question I got is, what role do inmates have on this fire? So if we go back to the handline question, predominantly that is what inmates are used for on the fire. We use them as hand crews to put that handline in and construct that handline. And the last one that I have is, do the inmates have access to homes? No, they don't have access to the homes as far as like going into homes that are unburned. They will construct line in and around homes to protect them under the supervision of the fire captain very, very directly. And then some of the crews, they have secondary supervision on the line with them. And then their correctional officers are typically just outside of the fire area, so that if there's any concerns there, those guys are close.
Okay, thank you. So these group of questions all asking the same thing. What is the threat to these communities and what is being done in the communities of Encino Hill, Mountain Gate, Brentwood, and Sawtell? So just looking at where those areas are. So around Encino, you see it's up here, and then we're going to Brentwood, Mountain Gate's about here, and then Sawtell's down on the bottom. So very little activity around the fire, very little activity on the right side of this fire. There is heat inside there. People are working those edges. So the threat is at this point very minimal to all those communities. But we're still staying vigilant because we still have the weather that is upcoming. As far as work that's being done, we do have structured defense groups. What that is a group of resources that prepare for the just in case. As I always say, we plan to keep the fire as small as possible, but we prepare for adverse events to happen. So they have resources in all those areas, all from Encino all the way down into Brentwood. And they're just driving around and pre-planning so that they're prepared if anything has to be done. They don't have to stop and think. They already have a plan they can gauge readily. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our question and answer portion. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, these are a nightly occurrence. So please join us again tomorrow night at